How does a man without favor or privilege and a mindset of scarcity become one of the most successful real estate agents on the planet? Rich Tomasini will disagree with you often, but not because he doesn't care, but because he does. He engages in verbal battle and without pulling punches, leaves you feeling strangely uplifted and inspired to do more than you ever thought you could. He understands that success is fleeting, it's rented, it's never owned, and the bill comes due every day. I caught him at a convention in Orlando, Florida, and he shared with me some of his seldom published opinions on human behavior and how to overcome the limiting patterns that we put in our own way. The most personable loner you'll ever love to meet. Please welcome Rich Tomasini, a Ronin in real estate. You gave a speech today at this big real estate convention at EXP Shareholder Summit, which you've earned the right to be on this stage and talk to people about your accomplishments and the mindset challenges that you have to, the obstacle course that you have to be able to do with ease in order to stand on a stage and help people the way you have helped people. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when I went to Charlotte to see you at that event that you held, it was the people in your marketplace that know you as the man who does business in your hometown. And those people came up to you and they respect you. And there's a difference between some of the show horses in a company and some of the workhorses in a company. And I would say you're a little bit both, but half of that job is unfortunate to you. You know?
Yeah, well, I need purpose.
Yeah.
No different than most men.
Yeah.
And, it's a lot easier to fix other people's problems than it is to fix your own. And if you're trying to tackle fixing your own problems and you have some measured success, it's like, holy smokes, like, it's not that hard. You can do it. Let me help you and see where we go from there. So we're just like, it's like Michelangelo. It's just a big stone. You're just chipping away the little pieces and sometimes knocking a piece off yourself.
Well, I was just reading a book about Michelangelo.
Yeah.
And about people asking him, it was this book like 10x is easier than 2x. And it was about, people asking Michelangelo how he carved the statue of David. And it was about, well, I didn't actually carve the statue of David.
I just got rid of the wrong pieces.
Yeah, I just removed everything that wasn't supposed to be there.
Right.
So is that what it is for you? Or because here's what I noticed when I want to coach people. And when I first met you, I could tell you were a kindred spirit because you're good at helping other people because you've solved the stuff in your own life. And because you've solved the stuff in your own life and you've helped yourself go through an arc, it's almost irritating to you that somebody else hasn't done it.
That they're not willing to try.
That they're not willing to try. That's the irritating part for you.
I mean, I get frustrated with fatalists.
What is that? Talk to me about a fatalist.
I don't know. Just basically, I am going to be this way. This kind of life isn't for me. I guess something I referenced earlier today was you can build a life around your philosophy or build a philosophy around your life. I feel like a lot of people are doing it the latter. And, I grew up with it, right? I grew up in a blue collar town and it's like, oh, people with money are sellouts. They sold out their families. They're greedy. They're distrustful. It's us versus them. It's all about the simple things like driving a pickup truck and eating dinner at your house. And the fact of the matter is I agree with them. I'm a blue collar guy, but I don't think it's an or. Like I have a pretty good relationship with the concept that I don't have to spend money, but to be able to help other people generate money and to do something productive that has value, however it's quantified, I find that to be interesting. I mean, the guy who fixes your truck on the side of the road is more important than your heart surgeon if you're in the desert, right? And, so I have a bit of a different take on it. I don't really belong in the blue collar world because I feel very stagnant in that environment sometimes. And
why do you think that is?
I feel comfortable in the personalities and the grounded earthiness of it. I feel understimulated in the topics of conversation. I can't talk about sports, Jeramie. I don't care. I don't know what the weather's going to be like 3 days from now because it doesn't matter unless I have plants outside, right? So I struggle in sort of basic, the idiosyncrasies of right now, let's chat about these basic things. I feel way more drawn into what kind of psychological obstacles that we're all trying to labyrinth our ways through things. I like people that are competitors. I'm a competitor. And I sometimes see in the neighborhood that I grew up in was everybody was doing just fine. And that to me frightened me.
What neighborhood was it?
I grew up in South Florida in a small town that butts up to the Everglades called Sunrise.
So what was the mentality of the town? Talk to me about what people did there and why it was.
They did all the things that people are doing in this hotel, like cleaning the rooms and setting up the tables. I mean, everybody was in a trade, right? I mean, it's where your cops and your post office people and teachers and pastors and priests, everyone lived in these little shoeboxes and this nice little like witness protection plan type of look track housing.
Yeah.
And it was fun. Great.
No one would choose to
Yeah.
relocate there, maybe.
It's not a name. It's
Yeah.
a place that you live. Now,
Yeah.
you can have a lot of pride in where you live and love the community and the people. So you can learn to love that place if you grow up in the environment, but you don't aim to
Would you
live
say the teenagers grew up and wanted to move away? Or did they want to go and stay because
Well,
that was just sort of what they learned and what they knew?
it depends on what their parents told them.
Small town, would you call it rural?
Yeah, it was rural. I mean, South Florida is hard to call rural because it's such a chaotic place, but it was a small town vibe.
Okay.
You know, you had one C-store and everybody kind of knew each other. We had one Catholic church, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you went until you
Sounds like
did
my
something else.
hometown where I'm
Yeah,
from.
Not
you
that
know?
different.
Yeah.
So like that feels comforting. I like that.
Yeah. I do too.
But yeah, I'm comfortable there.
I am.
And I'm not comfortable in neighborhoods that I can live in now,
Yeah.
right?
I get
But
it.
I don't know. I've always never really identified with either side as a perfect fit. Like I could live in a flat in Manhattan or have 500 acres in the middle of nowhere, but living in the suburbs feels like I kind of lost.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm an extreme person that way, on the spectrum. So what I love about, especially entrepreneurs, is the amount of courage that these people have had to exercise to get through all of the constant failures, struggles, lack of information. What I love about the blue collar people is that they put their pants on one leg at a time. They're quick to bring you a meal if your spouse is sick. And those two places, neither one of them fully satiates me, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know.
So,
what that
but
means.
now
Yeah.
you started out your career. What was your first couple jobs that you did?
So outside of like just basic teenager jobs, because I started working at 14, I dropped out of college in my second year. I didn't have the study habits, maturity, focus, and frankly, any clarity on what I would do. So when I dropped out of college, I was in Gainesville, which was 4.5 hours away from my hometown. And my dad, who was a literature, English lit major from Queens College in New York, was super disappointed.
Wow.
Like he was the first generation of college graduates, like graduated with, unbelievable marks. And the second generation of our immigrant families.
It gave him success, not just like from a
Yeah.
generational perspective.
Personal achievement.
It was a personal achievement for
Yeah.
him that he was proud of. And
Yeah.
He wanted that for you.
And he should have been proud of it because he wasn't supported in that. So it was a milestone. That was like a basic character building experience for my dad,
Wow.
that if I wasn't going to have that, then what else was going to build that part of my character, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was not thrilled. So I was going to stay in Gainesville and work in the restaurant business, right? Or he said, look, come on down here and why don't you become a real estate appraiser, because I'm severely worried about your trajectory. And for him to even offer that and kind of be an olive branch for us to talk again, because he was pretty disappointed, was an easy price to pay. I was like, sure, I'll take the job just so we're good. So I did that for about 6.5 years.
Did you want to be an appraiser?
No.
Did it because you thought it would honor your dad?
Well, I had no skill set. Yeah, I guess I did it. I never have had a love for real estate. I like people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But and I like anything that you can measure, right? That wasn't really it for us. What worked in the appraisal side is that it gave me sort of a fundamental book knowledge on how real estate valuations act. And if you know how to price property, that's a major advantage. But again, I was in that world and I always had the crappiest vehicle in the driveway. I'm in a Toyota pickup truck and everybody else is in black Mercedes. And I'm like, I'm on the wrong pay side of this transaction, So
You're
wanted
working
to swap.
you're working for a fee.
Yeah.
These people are working for a percentage.
Once I understood that, which I know obviously doesn't take a very long time, and it kept proving to myself that the least knowledgeable people in the transaction were the ones that had the most to make, I couldn't unsee or unhear it. I had to make the swap over.
So that was the moment where you went,
Yeah.
no, because no, the appraiser was kind of an entrepreneurial gig though, wasn't it?
It was my dad's company.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
were you a paid employee?
No, I was a subcontractor.
Subcontractor, but
Yeah.
the work was there and
Yep.
you just showed up for work and somebody gave you the work.
My dad was basically helping me out. And that was another thing for me, you know, when you're dealing with young men, we got to stand out of our father's shadows. There's certain guys that are okay being in that space. I'm not one of them. So I felt such a loss of dignity that I was this person he was taking care of, even though I was earning my keep there, in a position where he was making the rain happen and I was collecting it. So I was very antsy to try my hand out on my
Something
own.
new. Let's talk
Yeah.
about standing in our father's shadows for a minute.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. Like, why did you arrive at that realization? Talk about that a little bit more.
You know, I've never been one of those guys that's my dad and I are very different people. We're a bit of a long distance phone call on personalities. You know, we're close. We love each other, but we're very different guys. My parents live 5 houses down from me. So we're close, but we're not synergistic all the time.
Yeah.
And what my dad was doing was he was trying to take care of me. And the way that my dad raised me was for me to be independent and to figure it out. It was a juxtaposition of how I was operating and how he was operating as a father and how I feel and how he built me to feel. So it just felt like it was out of alignment. I always felt like he had to worry about another mouth to feed. And that's ridiculous. I was a 20-something-year-old guy. So I was very, very quick to emancipate myself from that situation as soon as I had enough buffer to hold my breath and take a chance.
To prove that you could do it on your own, or
Not prove to him, but just to be self-reliant.
that's important to you.
I think it should be important to everybody. I mean, I love when my wife spoils me, right? But she's not codependent. My wife is an independent woman that could get through life without me. And then by the grace of God, she chose to do it with me. It's not because she needs me. It's because it's just better to do life together. And I didn't want to have that kind of relationship as a male really on anything. And I've never had a job. I've always been self-employed because I don't like when people tell me what to do and I hate rules. So it was kind of naturally going to have to happen. Under my dad's firm, I respected the way he did things. And it's not just out of respect. I thought it was all logical, but it wasn't my company. When I got my real estate license in 2006, I was like, okay, this is my business. It's sink or swim, and I'm going to do it my way. And it's not to prove my dad that he built somebody that's able to launch. It's just to really basically be in something to where my work was correlated to a limitless opportunity. If I wanted to get very compulsive and go down a rabbit hole and narrow my focus and learn how to sell real estate, learn how to communicate, learn how to deal with people, learn the marketing, learn how to lead generate, learn how to manage teams, learn how to do all the different obstacles that you learn along the growth pattern. I wanted to make sure that I was making the decisions, I was paying the prices for the mistakes, and that I could figure it out and it would be mine. Good or bad, it'd still be mine.
Well, let's talk about rules for a second.
Yeah.
It sounds like, especially in the appraisal world and the real estate world, which are both licensed professions,
Yes.
there's a lot of rules.
In the appraisal world, yeah.
But the rules are okay.
No, listen, I'm good with laws
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
philosophy and theories, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not good with it's done this way because we said so, or you need to do this way because this is the way that it's always been done, or if you don't do it this way, we're at an impasse. Like, I'm not a box checker. I don't like people telling me what to do. I like to be able to do what feels right, what my logic arrives at. So in the appraisal field back then, I'm going back to 1999, 2000, but basically the way the system was structured before they got it organized was mortgage brokers chose the appraiser, and they would choose appraisers that would make any number because they would close more loans. So if you weren't making numbers, you were at a disadvantage unless you found an honest mortgage broker. So there was that dynamic. Then some underwriter who was living in a different state that doesn't know anything necessarily about appraisals would underwrite the loan based on parameters for their lender. And then they would kick back certain things. Like, so for example, evaluating property, if something's a mile away and it exceeds a guideline, that has nothing to do with if it's not a good comp. Same school district, same tax district, whatever, right? Same kind of design. I was always in some kind of like a box that I had to do the circus dance and make sure that it was perfectly acceptable to be less accurate because that was the structure of the deal. What I liked about the real estate sales is I could only work with the clients that I wanted. I could do it my way. I could be a listing agent because I knew evaluations. I could be covered in tattoos and not polished and not wear suits and not bake apple pies, and that would all work fine for my clientele. I like that autonomy.
For me, it was the first time I was working in the restaurant business and I was a bartender and somebody told me I had to shave or go home.
I would hate that.
And I'm like, this relationship isn't going to last very long. You know,
I know.
I mean, I get the idea of being clean shaven, you know, and wearing a nice shirt.
Sure.
A lot of dudes would just come up and they didn't care.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't shower. They like picked up their shirt, had never been ironed, but they wanted a crease right down the middle. It was this military precision that I knew I would never be able to maintain those rules because those rules never mattered to me. What mattered to me was getting the work done in time in a quality manner, making sure all the servers had their drinks, making sure the customers were, you know, felt loved on and taken care of. That's the stuff that mattered to me. So when we didn't get supported by the management because of the rules, because, oh, Jeramie, you didn't sell enough entrees tonight. But I gave people an awesome experience, and that for some reason, that's not measurable to you.
Yeah.
You know, like that sort of thing bothered me about rules.
Yeah.
And so for the same reason, I never really wanted to participate in that world.
Well, you're exactly right. Because if you gave me an awesome experience and I was a customer at your restaurant, then I would be there more often and you would hit your numbers by proxy of caring about the customer and not caring about the specifics. How do you track it, right?
It's so hard to track that
sort of thing. Nobody cares to track it.
Yeah. So what I like about you is that you're kind of like a samurai with no master. You know, you are a Ronin. Yeah. You are, and you've named your kid Ronin.
Yeah, my oldest son's name is Ronin.
And which is really cool. Yeah. Because that sort of thing is important to you. Having autonomy, but also having your own dojo. You know, your own set of rules that let other people break them. Let people break your rules. You don't care, and I can tell that about you, and I love it. And it's hard to find a person that can break your rules because they've worked for you. And I want to talk a little bit about your career right now because I think it's super inspiring to people. And can we talk about some of your numbers and income a little bit?
I'll talk about anything you want.
Okay. Just because I think it's you've reached a level of income through your own hard work and your own rules that I think would inspire people. So that's why I want to share it.
Okay.
So you were a real estate appraiser. You became a real estate agent. Did you find that skill set was kind of an unfair advantage? Did it work for you?
It was an advantage.
Was it?
It was an advantage, and basically you have a very sharp tool in your shed. Now, how to get in front of somebody that's going to sell their house and be exposed to you was
new skills.
It was a black hole.
Yeah. How did you do in the beginning?
Well, I didn't have any money to invest. I was like most real estate agents where you go in there underprepared financially. I was at Remax in 2006. And believe it or not, the internet was not very sophisticated back then. So I went through the white pages and I started calling at the A's.
Just for sellers, just for people that wanted
in my local Mooresville white page. And I would call them up and I'd say, hey, listen, my name is Rich Tomasini. I'm with Remax down the street across from the Chick-fil-A. Try to keep it nice and casual. And the tax record shows that you've owned your house for 7 or 8 years. If you have any intention of moving, I'd be happy to let you know what it's worth because I used to be a real estate appraiser and I could give you a benchmark on what the house is worth, which might help you make one decision or another.
What a great script. It's so genuine.
It's easy.
And perfect and factual.
It's all true.
And it's like, I'm taking your time right now, tonight, to tell you who I am and do you need this service?
Yeah. And when people would be rude, I would say, I'll never bother you again, but you can bother me anytime. Just call me when you're ready and I'll give you good service and we'll just move forward.
How did that go?
Well, my reaction to people being rude to me has always been a shocker because and this probably makes me dysfunctional and we can iron this out in therapy if I ever go, but I don't need people to like me for me to like them.
Yeah.
You know,
why not?
What does it matter? If I think you're the coolest dude in the world and you think I'm a total knucklehead.
Yeah.
Does that make you not the coolest guy in the world? It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't impress you.
Yeah.
But maybe you're right. I don't know.
It doesn't bother you.
It might bother me in a sense of reflection and wanting to improve myself.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the way that I feel about you.
Oh, that's interesting.
I can like you unilaterally.
Here's what's awesome about that. So you can, sorry to interrupt you, but it's fascinating. You can move forward from an act of rejection and actually continue to be inspired by that person, even though they don't like you. And for some reason, that you take that internally and you reflect on that as a way to improve yourself even. Here's the thing. I wouldn't think that a guy like you would really give a crap about what that person would think. But
I
yet
care
you
about
seem
everybody.
to meditate on it, though.
No, I care about what everybody thinks about me because I'm honest. I mean, there's very few Jack Nicholsons in the world. I mean, I do have a sort of an aura in that, like, I'm not very reactive because that's what I can control. If you put me in a bad headspace and I let that happen, then it's really my fault, right? It doesn't mean it doesn't affect me. I'm affected, but I don't have to, I can respond or I can react. I just would rather just process. And then I'll go to somebody I care about and I'll be like, hey man, Jeramie said that he thinks I'm disingenuous about this, or I was not forthcoming in this matter. Do you see that showing up in our relationship? And if you do, give me some examples. And then I got to think about, why am I doing that? What is the root of that? Am I trying to impress Jeramie and he sees through it? Do I really not care about it? And am I a sociopath and I'm not I've
thought that so many times.
Yeah.
I've thought so many times. I've said to my wife, am I a sociopath? Because like there's certain things that don't affect me emotionally, but there's certain odd things that just wreck me.
I know, me too.
I mean, it's like, I don't understand it. Well,
it's like a turtle. Like I can crack I could pop your shell. It's okay. But if I hit you in that soft neck, it might hurt bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how our psyche is.
So what's interesting is, this is the skill set that you entered the real estate world. And did you start at a franchise? Did you start your business at Remax? Okay.
Yeah.
So you started at Remax.
You're not supposed to start at Remax.
You're not supposed to start at Remax. I mean, that's like a 95% split, but you're paying like $1,500 a month to
$21,000 a year in ancillary expenses.
Like whether you close a deal or not, you're paying money to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They called it the no stress plan, 70-30.
Mm-hmm.
So what they would do is allow you to kind of a draw, right? For more or less. And then they would fire you if you don't produce. So I knew I had to move fast, otherwise I'd have to write a check or I was going to get fired. Well, it's interesting because really basically, if I'm not willing to bet on myself, I don't know how I can expect them to bet on me. So I was fine taking the challenge. The only reason why I went to Remax, I tried to go to a company called Allen Tate, which is a big company out here in the South. But the lady hated my accent. And she was like, there's no way you're going to sell real estate out here. So
you're not from around here.
No, I'm not from around here. And so I hit Remax on the way back to my house and I dropped in there and they were like, you have a checkbook? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, do you want this? I'm like, yeah. So they signed me up and I went to work that day. I stayed for 6 hours after my interview and started calling people.
Did you get training or did you just figure it out as you go?
Remax they don't want you to ask questions in Remax. Nobody has an incentive to answer them. It's probably why I'm where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like go in your office space and produce. Yeah.
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 I had a very similar experience. I started at Realty Executives.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, the agent that I used to sell my properties, and in my 20s, I started flipping a couple properties.
Yeah.
And I wish I had continued with that in some respects because like people ask me all the time, like, why didn't you just continue flipping properties? Because I flipped enough properties to go move to Los Angeles and pursue the career that I wanted to pursue. And then came back with $0 and real estate was the only thing I ever had a knack for. So I was okay, I got a family to feed now. So let's just get to work. And then of course the market crashed and it was a lot harder to get to work, but that's a story for a different time as well. But
we're roughly the same age. So we've been through these same patterns.
Yeah. So, it was interesting to have to work in an environment where you had to make things, ridiculously machine driven. Like we had to show up for work every day when people were questioning, why are you showing up for work? The market had completely crashed.
Well, I think that's basically just the symptoms of entrepreneurship. You're like, okay, I am going to go to a place that I'm going to tell everybody that I'm working at, and I'll probably leave with no money. And I'm going to do this consecutively. And hopefully I will be able to find an opportunity that 60 days from that point, if everything goes right, I'll get paid on. So I had this philosophy in my head early. I'm like, okay, I'm either going to get grossly overpaid or work for free much of the time. So that's where I think my martial arts background comes into where so I just have to practice. And what I did is I practiced calling people and I was awful. Like what I said to you, you were much kinder to me than I was being received. And I started to realize, okay, when I say this, I seem to lose them, or I can't even get to this point. And I started to just practice how to keep somebody on the phone for 8 seconds. And then once I got to that point, how do I get the appointment from second 8 to whatever? And then if I'm on the phone for 30 minutes, I have a new friend, but I don't have a listing.
No doubt about it.
Right?
I was the same way. I realized that very quickly early in my real estate career. I was like, I stick a sign in the yard.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to call. They want the price and they want to get off the phone as fast as they
Boom.
can.
Yeah.
So it becomes a game. How do I build
them on.
rapport as quick as possible?
Yeah.
And identify them. Hey, guess what? I just moved here from California. I just moved back.
Yeah.
And I know you're calling from California. I recognize the prefix. It's like, hey,
now you're in a conversation.
I know that how hard it is. And I know you're calling 8 real estate agents.
Yeah.
So let me just do you a favor.
Yeah.
Let me just send you some listings and try to serve you.
Yeah.
And win some, like earn the right to become their agent.
Absolutely.
Rather than just, try to sell them something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's funny. So like when I would have people, so I was a listing agent, right? So when I had people call my signs, I mean, my answer, at least when I was new, was like, hey, listen, I have 5 listings right now and I'm sitting at my office prospecting and I would love to take a break and go show you the house right now. Like I could be there in like 8 minutes. You interested? And people didn't know what to do with that just because it's not what they expect.
You're available.
Yeah.
I thought that too. That was a huge aha for me early on. It was like I could have an arm growing out of my head. Yeah. And if I'm the guy who's available, it doesn't really matter. They don't care about the agent. They just want someone who is available right now. Yeah. Get me in. Yeah.
I mean, you got my number because you're parked in front of the house, right?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is turn your air on, hang out for 7 minutes, and you'll see me pull into the driveway.
That's when I realized that the level of standard of professionals in the real estate industry was so low, I was going to succeed no matter what. Like that level of confidence is you can build on.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's encouraging because you don't have a lot of comfort and safety, but you're like, okay, nobody else here seems to be as reactive as I am, as responsive, as service oriented, as interested to hustling. So I'm probably going to make it because all of these other people in my office are driving nicer cars and they seem to be doing all right. So I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
I just got to get my mojo.
It's one of those things. It's like you take that blue collar upbringing and you put your head down and work and the money shows up. But so oftentimes people focus on the money and not the work. They want what they want now because we live in a now society and we're used to that. You want a movie, whatever movie you want to watch, it's now. You guys like you and I had to wait till it came on television. And then we had to stop everything and watch it. And if you had to pee, go during the commercials. You know what I mean? It's like we're different than the way things are now. So I think we have an unfair advantage.
Well, we're living in the old world and in the new world at the same time.
Oh my God, that's so true.
And everybody else is just in the new world or in the old world. But this like Generation X is sort of got 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on land. You can lean.
The most underappreciated generation. My wife and I were talking about this. It's like you watch a movie, you had to watch 95 names go on the screen before you even got to the movie.
I know.
And it's like, don't mess with a Gen Xer because I can be as bored as you want me to be. I am very comfortable being bored. In fact, I want to be bored. I can't wait for the day that I'm bored again.
The other thing too that's interesting is that as you age, right, like hopefully wisdom is starting to come in because you're divorcing some agility, some metabolism, right? Your cells are getting older, right? You're forgetting why you're in that room occasionally. So hopefully there's a trade-off. And I always felt like I don't want to be in agreement with time to where it's only taking and not giving me any deposits. So I better stay open.
So the way I have reframed that is I say to myself, and as many people as I possibly can, is don't think of yourself as an older version of your younger self.
No.
But think of yourself as a younger version of your older self. Because it's good right now. There's lubrication in your joints that exists. So go ahead and get up and
we're in a sweet spot.
Yeah. It's really great. My dad told me, he's like, hey, your 40s, probably the best time in your life because you've got more money than you had ever before in your life. You're still young enough to enjoy it. And it's just a sweet spot in your life.
It is.
So I've been really trying to enjoy the journey as much as possible. You mastered a real estate model at EXP and a lot of people have not. And I know that this podcast is about discovering recipes for success. And for you, it's a mindset. It's not a company. You would have succeeded, I think, at any company. But for whatever reason, the model that is revolutionary and young and new and not really for Gen Xers even. I mean, it's EXP is a very difficult company to understand. And once you understand it, it can set financial algorithms in place that don't exist in any other company. And like 16 years in the business, EXP was a really difficult company for me to even understand because I was trying to provide, I thought I, as an independent broker, was providing something for people that no other real estate company offered. And that was a retirement plan. It was like, look, if you are a real estate agent and you haven't invested in property yourself, you've missed it. You've left a lot of money on the table because you have more. It's the one thing that nobody knows how to do. They don't know their local market. You have more control over your investment because if you know your local market better than anybody else on the planet, why would you buy every deal?
Yeah.
As many as you possibly could.
Yeah. Off-market deals, you get them first.
You might as well, you know, and you can only do so many deals. So then start telling people, start telling your friends, start bringing in clients, start finding investor clients. Yeah. That's how I help real estate agents get 3.5 times the national average, just by teaching them not to miss that. And I thought I had done beautiful with that.
You had.
Here's the thing. Not everybody pulls that lever. Yeah. Not everybody can, but EXP provided some additional exit strategies that I couldn't, like such as giving ownership of my company to a person. I can run the biggest, best company in the world, but there's only so many shares that I can offer to somebody. Yeah. And it's like having kids. How do you be fair to everybody? How do you give everybody the same
when you give them the
opportunity?
shares, you're not getting a business partner. You're just preventing losing a very talented agent.
Golden handcuffs, almost.
Yeah, but also no value into the business. So you're giving away shares to people that are not entrepreneurially going to add to your company. You're giving shares away to not lose producing agents.
That's true. It's a bad reason to give away shares.
It's a double hit.
It's a double hit because you want to be sure that whoever you give away shares to cares as much about the journey you're on to go rescue people and not so much as building their own individual team. As most agents are. You know, you can't be an agent and a broker at the same time. Really, you cannot.
No, you can't do both well.
You have to be a broker team.
Yeah.
Because there's decisions you have to make as a brokerage that the agent may not like. Or vice versa. And so that's the situation I ended up in.
I know.
And, you know, so I eventually came to EXP to be able to provide those really legendary benefits in revenue share and stock. And when I came over and brought my team over, I mean, I had the unique privilege of being able to train real estate agents from being a waiter to doing $1 million in volume.
I know.
And it's a beautiful place to be along somebody's side to help them. And then you get them from 1 million to 3 million. And then you realize they're going to need a full-time admin, but they don't have the courage to go out and hire somebody. So you go out and hire somebody and you provide the full-time admin and you let them rent that admin from you and you get them to the next level, you know, and it's in discipleship, like helping somebody get from point A to point B is what life is all about. But too often we just want to hold people. We want to somehow possess our accomplishment in them. But that's such a difficult thing to let go of. It's like letting go of children because you put your time, energy, sweat, blood, late nights into them and, you know, watching them grow up into something that you may not even like anymore. You know, that for me became, I mean, some of them are so beautiful and some of them you're like, oh, wow, I just taught you to be wealthy so you could be a douchebag. Like that was difficult for me. Like, honestly, right now, that's what's preventing me from, I think, being legendary wealthy is because why would I want to train anybody else to be wealthy when they could grow up and be a jackass? You know what I mean?
Oh, can I respond to a lot of that? Okay. Yeah. So you were an anomaly because we've looked at a lot of independent brokerages. I mean, I've looked at thousands. I normally get called in when we're at that point where we're like, okay, they understand the cost of EXP. They probably understand the value, but they're vacillating. It's crazy, right? And with your company, it was so odd. I'd never seen so many agents with high volume. So I knew at that point, like, well, pardon the illustration, but like, you're a father like very few other fathers. The problem that, and I suffer from this from fatherhood too, and I relate it because they're kind of like your children, right? They were a waiter, and now they're a $20 million producer and investor because of your influence, education, mentorship. Now, what happens though is that if you're constantly solving their future problems because you had already pioneered that trail, they're not experiencing any of the things that build character. They're just constantly diminishing the problem ahead because they never had to suffer from it. You've solved it preemptively,
right?
Gave them guidance. Take a hard left here. That curve's going to be tricky, right? And then once they get to a certain point without the adversity, they're less thankful than you would imagine they would be because of all of the insights and everything. Most of it is lost on them, not because they don't want to see it, because they didn't understand the pain of it.
Right.
And it gets tricky. Like, you know, just like parenting, all you want to do is keep your kids home and safe and protect them. Yet concurrently, you're trying to make them independent and able to live without you. So you're trying to push them away from you that way. It's a crazy experience where I think it's super interesting in how we both approach things in our learning constantly, is that basically you can't prevent people from dealing with pain. What you can do is prepare them on how to react to anything and support them and be there for them. But you have to expose them to the pain so we can see what really is there. And for me, this whole model was basically a concept to where I can't preach to you about the pains you're going to have. I've been through all of them. You can have the white hair or you can listen to me. You're probably going to get the white hair, right? So once you go through those types of pains, then I can tell you the solutions from here, right? So I always worked on the agent that basically you worked on the agent's front half of the career, and then I focused on the back half. Okay, you're doing $20 million of business, right? Everything's great. But now your lifestyle is expensive, and now you have to do $12 million of business.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're used to it now.
Yeah. And now you can't go to
Yeah.
any other job because the money's so good in this thing, right?
Yeah.
So how do we, it's easy to get into prison, not very easy, right? But it's easy to get, how do we get you out? And that was a conversation that nobody wanted to have, because why would a brokerage owner sit down $20 million producers, which is how I remember your numbers if I'm shooting from far, and say, hey guys, I'm really worried about you working too hard, too long. I got to figure out an exit process. And what made you a standout for me, and this is not meant to be a mutually edification thing for your audience, because that's annoying for all three of us.
Of course, yeah.
But I mean, the fact is that bothered you that you didn't have that solution.
Yeah.
So the very idea that you were trying to teach them as a consultant on how to deal with wealth and how to invest it and have a tangible asset that you know a lot about, that you can touch, feel, depreciate, whatever, was to me a hope, a sliver of hope that you would understand EXP as a benefit.
Oh my gosh. So my whole shtick is getting a greater return on your time.
Right.
And that's what the short-term rental business was. That's what was about, like, quit working a job, become an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Quit working so hard as a real estate agent, work with investors. Like you literally have to market less time. Plus you're going to learn a lot. Plus everything you learn, you can apply over here for yourself.
And it's all logical.
Execute it. And it's beautiful. So EXP, the stock and the revenue share was a super attractive thing for me, because I knew that nobody else really does that. But you actually have executed that part of the model so brilliantly, the revenue share part of the model, that actually the thing that gives EXP a bad name, the things that repels most people from EXP, is the fact that the revenue share is so generous that so many people have wanted to get out of production so fast, because it's a hard gig to be a real estate agent, to work for free until you get paid, and to have all the perceptions that all real estate agents have, and to bust your butt to try to be a great real estate agent. That wears on you. You got like a 10-year, maximum
it's a burnout
window.
Business. Yeah.
So to be able to, and your effort and your work as a real estate agent is going to inspire people, because everyone below you that's still working that job, trading time for money, is looking at you saying, my God, they're posting about the vacation, or he just seems happy. I mean, like he's home today. He's been home all week with his kids. Like, those things inspire people. Those freedoms that you earn inspire people. So you're naturally going to bring people into the world. Hey, I want to be a real estate investor, or I want to be a real estate agent. So that starts to happen, and EXP gives us a way that they honor us for bringing good real estate agents into the company.
Well, they depend on us. We don't grow unless you personally think it's a good fit for someone that you might know.
So let's talk about that. Some people might personally think it's a good fit for somebody they might know, and some people might just try to convince them to the model because they want the revenue share.
Both are always happening. The problem is that to convince somebody to come to the model is such a non-lucrative experience. You don't make a lot of money. You only make a lot of money if that person succeeds long-term. So that short-term, like one-night stand approach doesn't keep a marriage alive. So those people are just basically perpetuating the reputation that we have as we're a recruiting company. And that's unfortunate, but hey, that's life. Like, this is not a perfect company, and those people are here and they're everywhere, and it stinks. Basically how to build revenue share long-term. And this is why I don't have mastery at it. This is just why I like it, is that basically if you get to where you want to go, and if I can't personally help you, I can introduce someone else that can help you. I can get you the resources that you're asking me for, and keep, pushing you along where you need it and leaving you alone where you have mastery. Then if you do really, really well, I'm going to probably do all right. And if we have enough people doing really well, I'll be just fine. And that's why I work so easily in this thing, is because I've never had someone come up and ask me a question. And I said, oh, no, I'm not telling you. I'm worried about you competing with me, or I don't, you know what I mean? So we answer questions. Here, we just get paid for doing it if we give them good advice and they integrate it.
Man, it's why you're still in the business. Like, you make over $100,000 a month at revenue share because you've brought in, 50 some odd people that brought in over 2,400, 2,500 people now, right? And it's just providing enough small pieces of revenue diversified over those, 2,500 people all across America that now your family earns the benefit of that revenue share that this company honors you with, and you don't have to be transactional anymore. But you also don't have to work anymore, dude. You're retired as far as most people are concerned. Like, $100,000 a month is legendary income for a lot of people. It's life-changing income, but you're still in the business. You're still working every day. And that says a lot about you, and it says a lot about the way you care about people. But what's interesting to me is that you care about people only so much. It's like you deeply care about some people, but there's also I don't really give a crap attitude that comes off of you that is kind of refreshing. And I think that's what attracts a lot of people to you. And I haven't figured it out yet. So, like, how do you both care and not care for people at the same time?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the default mentality on that is to give the squeaky wheel all the oil. And I give the quiet wheel all the oil.
Talk about that.
Well, I mean, like, for the people that are actually wanting to do something and they're pushing hard, I give those people all my time. And for the people that are dreamers, I mean, I like dreamers. I'm a dreamer, right? But like, for the people that are talkers and wanting things and, positioning themselves and posturing, I don't give them any love. And it's not because I don't love them. I just don't believe in them. So I guess basically I have a pretty quick, visceral read. Like, if I believe in you, I'll give you everything I have. And if you go through this planet and you take the entire population, I think most of us on this audience will agree that the majority of people don't want it that bad. So it's not that I don't care about them. It's just that I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm aware that, that my dog can bite me. I just know he never does because I never put him in a situation where he'd want to. And he's sane, right?
Yeah.
So I really try to spend all my time on that, 10 to 15% of the population that wants more. And they can have a beard or be clean shaven, or they can have an accent. They can do whatever they want. Like, a competitive spirit, an indomitable spirit is what I'm looking for. And with those people, we're good. And my favorite of all those people are people like me, who are people that are depressed. I'm not a depressed person, like, in the psychological term. I'm a pretty happy person, but I have fallen from grace many times, facing the dirt, lost everything in the downturn. I'm used to failure, right? So I'd rather work with somebody who has seen the view of a higher place and won't be happy until they see it again than somebody who's never had the courage to even go up the mountain and see the view.
Yeah.
So I do guess I kind of have a bit of a niche. Like, if you're down on your luck and you're trying hard and you believe in yourself, you're exactly the kind of person I want to work with. And the world is filled with people like that. I mean, my work will never be done. I'll never get to the whole line. We'll work on the person who's in front of us, right?
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I guess I don't care because I'm so impatient. It probably conveys Rich is a little bit not afraid to not have the whole audience in the room. But the fact of the matter is that I'm just not really good at giving everybody a little bit of myself. I'm only okay at giving a few people everything I got. And I know that about myself. And I also know that's one of the things in my personality that I can't change. Like, I can be patient. I can be more thoughtful. I can be calmer. I can be less reactive, right? But what I can't be I can never change the way my mind works. I can only modify my behavior and reaction to it.
Yeah.
So I've accepted that.
That's interesting. That's why I sent you that John Maxwell Leadership Bible, is because the 12 people matter to you, not the 12,000. Yeah. It's the 12 people that you need to be in front of to do life with is going to have a greater impact on people. And then going out and trying to be
it'll have a ripple effect.
Then be a famous person. You know what I mean?
I mean, I wouldn't be good at being famous anyway, because I'm very awkward in things that happen inside walls like this.
Yeah.
But my coach was a pastor. So we worked on 12 relationships that I give everything I have to, and 7 of them are retired. So I had to add some more people.
Yeah.
So we got the 5 that are on deck.
So what you're talking about, for the benefit of everybody listening,
I'm sorry.
is basically you are coaching 12 people, and in some cases more, because I know your group is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But you've got, you're opening yourself up to coach people to go from being a transactional agent to having the freedom to just earning money through revenue share, but you're doing it the right way, not by telling them to just go sell a company that will honor them for that, but by helping them provide the value and nurture them. Because you talk a lot about retention, because I've studied under you for a year, and you do talk a lot about retention, and you do talk a lot about, like, for me, this is your best sales pitch. Your best sales pitch is talking to somebody and being so ridiculously confused at the stupid stuff that they say to themselves on why they're not living a life that can be legendary because you're living it. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why I call you a samurai master, is because you're talking to somebody that can't even use a Swiss Army knife, and you've mastered the katana, and they're trying to tell you about sword fighting. And you stand there in a way with the mastery that you have, and it's the confidence of earning a certain benchmark, and you're able to easily shut people down in the stupid things that they say to themselves. And I think that's it's brilliant, and it would piss me off.
I piss off a lot of people,
except for the fact that I know your heart, and that's what makes you an enigma to me. And I think a lot of people can't really figure you out, so they're attracted to you for that reason. And you are just a good guy.
Well, I mean, it's like, so you have a choice to make with somebody that you don't know very well. Actually, you have a choice to make with people that you know the best. Is, do I care more about the person or the relationship? So I'm willing to risk relationships for the person to grow, and I'm willing to forfeit relationships for that. So if I pissed you off, and I know that you're reflective because I know that, like, it's worth you not having me in your life or holding me in this regard if it helps transition you into another way of thinking that helps your family and gives you peace.
Sure. Honestly, that's what we should be to people. I remember a guy once told me, and it's funny because this guy is the president of Keller Williams right now. And he told me one time, and he wasn't really trying to be a jerk, but we were just I was leaving Keller Williams. It was my exit, interview. And there's a lot of horrible things that happened in that conversation, but I do respect the man, for his accomplishments.
Yeah. He's got his own skills. Yeah.
And, good dude. But he told me, he looked at me at that meeting and he's like, you're really going to be pretty successful once you figure out what you want to be when you grow up.
Oh, that must have irritated the life.
It hurt. It was like a dagger, man. It was in my, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And really it made me focus.
Yeah.
It did make me focus. It was tough love for a year or two. I wouldn't whisper the guy's name, but he was pretty insightful. And, you have a lot of skill sets that he does, except you tend to really deeply care more about people. And that's what makes you a difference. And that's what made me decide to make a change and to follow you, was because you had gone down a pathway that I wanted to go down, because I had lost faith in my ability to lead people in a way.
All leaders do.
Oh my God.
I mean, I second guess mine all the time. I'm a leadership person. I believe in leadership. And I don't know if I've ever gotten an A ever on anything. Like, it's like golf. Like, I don't know how you figure this thing out. All I know is that every time I mess it up, I go back and let everyone know, okay, this is what I should have done in hindsight, and this is what I did, right? And then we just move forward. People have given me a lot of grace to learn on their clocks, and I'm not unaware of that. One of the things, look, the world needs average men too. I'm not a judge on that. That's fine. If you want to be average, it's great. Average height, average weight, average income, average car, average savings account at 67, average father, average husband. That to me sounds like good. It's a lot better than a lot of the other examples out there, right? But there's certain categories where I don't want to be average. I don't want to have an average life experience. I don't want to be an average husband or father. I don't want to be an average son, and I don't want I don't want to be a person that's in your corner when things really hit the fan. I want you to be like, oh, thank God Rich is here. Like he's the first one to jump in the fight or pick me up or, whatever, right? So there's places I have to show up at a high level. And it's places that based on my sensibilities have to happen for me to have dignity. I try to build my character because I need work. And I try not to break the character that I build. And like, that's a full-time job, Jeramie. Like, and then the other thing is that when you're a father, it's like, my kids don't listen to anything I say. They just copy what I do. So if I want them to learn something, I have to walk the walk. So I'm constantly in a state of thinking, okay, how am I standing? What's my body mechanics? Am I overcompensating here? Am I being too, here's the whole idea is that I'm never going to get like close enough to where perfection is a word that will ever be used associated around me, right? What I'm going to do is that I'm going to be aware, I'm going to be mindful, and I'm going to try hard. And I think that is a redeeming quality because when you run across other people that are trying to do that, you're like, where have you been, Jeramie? I mean, are we the only two that know that we're all screwed up? Why is everybody walking around in this fog like they figured it all out? Whatever your Instagram shows, I mean, you're on vacation, but your phone's in your hand, right? Like that's right. You have a Lamborghini, but you have a payment on it. Or you have a Lamborghini and you're not even a car guy, right? So like, to me, it's like, I sort of reverse engineer. What do I want? I want mastery in anything that I'm willing to put 50,000 hours of practice in. I want to be able to impact somebody who needs some help when everybody else walks away. You and I think, have found some recent ways to do that. And that person will bail us out, right? And there's multiple people, right? But like, that's important. That's a brotherhood. That's a camaraderie. That's a military thing, right? And then like, I want to be with my family all the time. I want to live in a fish tank where I'm just with my kids aren't going to think I'm cool in 5-8 years. So I want to soak up these moments. And then whatever I want at 55, that's a whole nother bucket of time. I want the ability to not have to do anything I don't want to do. That is not, money is an element of it, but that's autonomy.
It's not even what we're promised.
No.
Like I have a very ecclesiastical approach to life, which is just go and eat dinner, eat food, drink wine with your wife, who you love, and find satisfaction in your work, not riches beyond your belief.
Yeah.
Find satisfaction in your work because there is no sorrow or complaining or anything else in the grave where you are going. We're all going to get there. So why are we complaining? And the thing that sets you apart is the fact that you realize that people observe you. You are a father to many. You are a father to your sons, and you realize that you cannot teach them without being present with them. And that's what makes you a good dad. It makes you a good leader, and it makes you a successful business person. And thanks for showing up every day when you don't have to. That's pretty cool of you.
I mean, honestly, I very much appreciate that. And I want to be with other people that I say that about. So it just kind of makes sense that we're having clumps of different types of people interact that wouldn't geographically be able to work together in any capacity.
Yeah,
and that's one of my favorite things.
Being a virtual company gives us the ability to interact.
You're in Branson, I'm in Mooresville. We'd never had met.
That's true. That's the one thing about EXP. Like I went to the EXP Con in Las Vegas. That was my first event, and I was like, this is very overwhelming. I don't really get this very well.
I hate going to it.
But yet this time, now that I've been in the company for a year, there's people I'm excited to see that I see on Zoom calls all the time, or I see their Facebook stuff or Instagram, and I'm like, I get to actually hang out with this person because they're ridiculously awesome, and they care about people the way we do.
Yeah.
What is next for you? What's the next thing that's got you excited or that you're really thinking about? Like, what's driving you now?
I don't know. I'm a little lost right now. So I'm definitely working on, there's a few people that I'm very much in the middle of their book and we have to see this through. Okay. So I've got that. Okay. But like in my book, I'm very lost right now. I don't know. I need to do something. I think I'm a little shot out on real estate, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Been doing this for 25 years. My wife and I have been, I like talking about wealth management because it doesn't matter if I make $100,000 a month. If I don't save it, it just goes back into the economy, right? So, I mean, we have been heavy savers. And we got to the point where we felt like, okay, if all else crashed, we could live a little life in a cabin, the two of us, and chase each other around the backyard all the way to death and be fine, right? As soon as I was able to secure that, because I work from scarcity, I don't work from abundance. Like I've had all kinds of coaches telling me all this stuff, but I'm more scared of the cat behind me than the cheese in front of me,
Nice.
right? So because I'm a scarcity mindset, I'm like, let me do my best to secure the worst case scenario. What we just hit that, and we've been saving money for a long time, and we just hit that to where money no longer is important to us unless we're looking for excess of what we have. And we're not. Okay. So now what do I want to do? So the first thing I did is I got off social media because I am not dependent on social media to keep in front of people's minds anymore. I can work on the back channels, right?
And you don't need it for your identity either.
No.
At all.
Well, actually, I mean, I feel like social media was ruining my personality because I would take my camera out and film something to put it on social media. The last month, my son scored like 14 points at a game. I don't have one piece of footage because I was watching the game.
You were present, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was like the only gift that I had really given myself was
That's
let me
cool.
divorce social media. So the last month I've actually had some clarity, and I think that I'm going to try to work on performance, which is a little bit more like, yes, how you show up at work, entrepreneurial stuff, doesn't have to be real estate, but basically, fitness, mindset, impact on an overall well-being, not just a secular, this is how you make money, this is how you learn how to do this is how I want, like, where I think most people are really messed up right now is that there's just so many areas of life that are getting compromised for one area that is probably more than enough. And where I'm trying to work on myself is like, okay, yes, I want to be psychologically, aware of what I want to be showing up well to where people basically think I can operate in most spaces. Like, I want to have my act together mentally, obviously, right? I want to work on my longevity. They call it the marginal decade. I want to be able to do things at 80 to 90 because I was such an old father. I want to hang out, right? I want to be able to talk to people about nutrition, about working out, about practices, about time management, about narrow focuses, about mastery, about falling in love with the practice. I want people to get, into the extreme ownership of things. I want people to be interested in pain. And all of that stuff is kind of like performance coaching. The only problem is I don't want to do performance coaching. I don't want to trade time for money, right? I'm not interested in doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very lost at the moment. I have no idea what I want to do. I have no clarity anywhere.
And such is any Ronin.
Right? Yeah, right. Directionless.
Who has no master, who has no direction, and who doesn't know what the next thing is going to be. But you know that your instinct, your instinct has served you from this point to now, and it will serve you again. And wherever it takes you is going to be a wonderful place, and I want to be there with you. And thank you for sharing some time with us here. And normally we have a cocktail, but tonight we're just drinking in the evening. I almost called this podcast like By the Fire, just because I love to sit by a fire. It's so grounding to me. It's meditative for me.
It's like the ocean.
Yeah, so we got to get by a fire sometime, bro, and hang out. Yeah.
Thank you,
Appreciate you, man. Well, a big thank you for listening to the end of our podcast. I know your time is valuable, and I hope you got a few takeaways that are going to help you get a greater return on that time. I know you will. And if you did enjoy it, I'd sure appreciate a share or a comment. Feel free to subscribe for instant access to new episodes and offers. There's also a ton of free content and ways to learn more and engage more at WorleyRealEstateNetwork.com. Until then, we'll continue to bring you recipes for success and real stories from real people who, like you, are living out your divine purpose. And hey, God loves you. No matter what happens, don't give up.